This video will contain spoilers for Deltarune Chapter 3 and very, very minor spoilers for Chapter 4 that have nothing to do with the actual plot of Chapter 4, but they are still technically spoilers, so I will warn you ahead of time for those points. Watch at your own risk. Deltarune today! Well, not today, but close enough. After 4 long years, Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 finally came out. And oh my god, has Toby and the team absolutely made it so much better than any of us could have dreamed of. And you know what that means? More absolute bangers Toby has created. And we'll be going over one of them as in-depth as I can today. Well, as in-depth as someone who knows barely anything about music composition can. And what better a song to go over than the main boss track of Chapter 3? That's right, coming straight from your house, he's groovy, but never glooby. And you certainly cannot get whatever this is from an egg. It's... Mr. Tenna's TV Show. I know I'm here just to talk about the soundtrack, but just look at this absolute goober. What? Okay, you've looked long enough. I'm sure you'll see an absurd amount of him on Tumblr. Tenna is the main antagonist of Chapter 3, and oh boy is he a doozy. But let's go over his boss theme and how it perfectly represents his character. Quick note, I will be discussing each section in the song to the best of my ability, so this video will be broken down weirdly, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best, I swear. As we start off, this literally sounds like a callback to Death by Glamour. It's not the exact same, of course, and certainly doesn't have the build-up Death by Glamour does, but there's absolutely no way this wasn't intentional. Also, minor Chapter 4 spoiler, skip ahead to this time to avoid this. Another thing that just proves this point is at the start of Chapter 4 during the hometown segment, we literally give Tenna to what is presumed to be Mettaton. I say presumed, it's Mettaton. Spoiler over. Given Mettaton and Tenna are both meant for entertainment, it's a nice touch. What's more likely is this part is just a callback to Opa Toby style. And my entire Death by Glamour rant meant nothing, but you know what? Let me be insane. We then transition into the drop, which, hello? Anyways, after the first 2 repetitions of the rhythm after the drop, we get the saxophone fade in, which, even though it's drowned out by a lot, it serves to just add to more build-up. Also, saxophones will of course be present in this theme, as we not only have many previous tracks before one that include one, but also these guys. Tenna's main motive immediately after, with barely any transition. It seems weird at first because you think it'll continue with that drop we heard, but you've got to remember, this is Tenna. It's gonna be weird. He's not an antagonist in the sense that we might think of. He's not evil, just a funky little guy. Well, aside from kidnapping Toriel, but we can look past that for now. As the motive comes to a close, it drags on slightly with that saxophone sound again, and what also sounds like a trumpet, only to go back to the original drop we heard before, but then right back into his motive, repeating once more. Does this feel like a brief facade drop to you guys? You go from silly, then back to a glimpse that this is actually a really serious fight, but then back to silly? It's interesting how that's portrayed here, but we aren't even a minute into the track, so let's see how it plays out. Is that Sonic Mania? Moving on, in the back, acting as a supporting rhythm, we have that sound? You hear it at the beginning of the song, but I don't know what to call it. It acts as a supporting beat nearly the full song. I think the changes in rhythm here with that specific sound help move the song forward, outside of the many different sections of the song moving by all at once. Insane callback to the Doomboard track. I think out of all the board OSTs, this one works insanely well. Remember how I mentioned that facade slip earlier? Well, it's back, but in full force. Outside of it being a cool motif and callback, it's unnerving almost, especially with how the song has sounded so far. And halfway through that part, it's pitched up, only to further build that tension. This sounds like Spamton's motive to me, just pitched differently, and of course the tempo is much different, with a slight rhythm change too, of course. Similar to the Metaton connection we made at the beginning of this track, this connection is much more obvious given... Also, Mike being a big piece into both of their lore. There's yet another connection outside of them seemingly having known each other in the past. Also, entertainment. With this motif playing, we still have the Doom board track in the background now, which, given that we know how Spamton turned out, almost gives a sinking premonition. Again, this really leads into that facade I mentioned earlier. This is what Tenna has become behind that TV personality, something darker, begging for people's attention, only to be ignored or forgotten. Honestly, this whole motif could just not be Spamton at all, and something completely different, but am I really an Undertale/Deltarune fan if I'm not reaching for connections? This whole section just feels like an homage to TV entertainment as a whole. We've got saxophones, and again what may be a trumpet sound overlaid, though it could just be the saxophones overlaid over another to project them more. Either way, it all comes to a climax, and that facade is once again put up, but much stronger here. Tenna's purpose is to entertain, and he realizes that's coming to an end, so it's like one last push to remind people of what's so great about TV. This part feels oddly nostalgic in some sense as well, but that could just be me. Bright, flashy, vibrant, something we haven't seen in the modern age very much, as everything just feels so muted. The thing is, people don't watch television anymore. They watch streaming services and YouTube. Ironic, isn't it? Television has served a purpose for a generation, just as Tenna has. Of course, Deltarune isn't set in complete modern times, but I think the design choice to have him as a CRT TV helps with world building in that aspect anyways, as, literally such a minor spoiler for Chapter 4, but just skip to this time if you don't want to see it. We see Noel has an HD TV, likely a flat screen from what we can see. Spoiler over. Tenna works not only as a goofy character, but as something long gone and forgotten. He tries to entertain Till, but he can only do so much. I feel like this boss theme perfectly represents that. This is completely unrelated to Tenna, but another thing that this theme does is with how direct and abrupt some of the transitions to each section are, it feels like you're switching channels on the TV, which is something cool I wanted to mention. Probably not the first person to think that, but hey, it's a thing. Now, with all of this in mind, go take a listen to the full track without my yapping breaking it up, and see if you hear what I hear and feel what I feel. While you listen back to the track, did you find anything I missed? Any other cool tidbits about sound fonts and instrumentation? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you made it to this point, a like would be super appreciated, but isn't necessary. Hope you guys enjoyed my first video. Have a great day, noon, night!